Well, particularly people who are well, lots of people too have looked at tons of videos as well. That's the other one that is going to take up a huge chunk of space. So, yes, indeed.
Yeah, well, I found my $25 USB CD reader, writer, what have you, works just fine with the new NUC. So that's a relief.
Well, Hewie and I were talking about this last week, and there's a program called Pick Back Man, and I'd actually I'd forgot because when I went to sign in, it said no, I had an account, which was in 2018, and so what is this? 3 years ago, 3 years I had an account there, and I sort of worked at it for a while. I moved some pictures from Flickr over to Google Photos, but I get bored after a while. It's just I just didn't want to keep doing it. I'd do about 3 albums and then figure this is boring and forget about it, right? And so I went in about a week ago and thought, I got to get this done. And Huey said to me, he said, you just can pay them and they'll do it. And I said, what? and so yeah, so that was great. So I just paid them and they did it and it's all done. So but it was dicey for a while because for some reason they didn't get my payment, or there was some account problem and nothing happened. And I said to Huey, did you get an email from them, or did something ever happen? And he said, yeah, they talk to me all the time. So I had to get a hold of them, and they just got it completed. So the pictures have all been copied over to Google Photos.
Carl has his hand up, and so
Carl,
does Chris.
Carl, go ahead.
Hi. Well, I've seriously considered moving all the photos over like you guys are doing, but I'm recalling that on my DVD on my TV, I have probably 100 hours of recorded shows. And I recall many years ago when I was recording a lot of stuff on my VCR of movies, documentaries and things. And when I think about it, I get so overwhelmed thinking that when am I ever going to watch these before I die?
Well, that's a good point, is who's ever going to watch all this stuff we're putting up there? That's a very good point, Carl, and one in which we did have a discussion about that once. I think last year we had devoted one of the shows.
One of the first shows we did.
Yeah, we bared our souls and
talked about what's the best way and what's going to happen as the technology changes. What happens to all these? At least with the printed photos, they got passed on to somebody somewhere along the way, or they got thrown away. But as far as the technology goes, how are we going to watch some of these things or view them? Not us, but our descendants. 100 years from now, they're not going to have a CD player, or they're not going to have a computer the same as we have today, and they may not have the same programs to be able to read them. So,
well, Carl, let me tell you
what's going to happen to all these things.
Carl, before we get to Chris's question, let me just tell you one of the big advantages that I found this week was when the pictures went over from Flickr into Google Photos. What happened is that because of the facial recognition, they went into proper albums. So, for example, there's a good friend of mine, his name's Dave, and we've been friends for 45 years, right? Well, we had tons and tons and tons of pictures of Dave on Flickr, and I haven't looked at those pictures for years. Well, when they went over into Google Photos, they got, because he's in my Google Photos account and he has Dave as facially recognized, all those pictures of Dave went into a file folder called, Dave. That's not his real name, but that's sort of what happened. And so I was able to quickly go through all those old pictures and send them to him digitally. So part of it isn't so much after we're gone what's going to happen with these, but it gives you a more immediate use for them, and you can have some fun with it. Chris, go ahead.
You're muted.
Yeah, I got it. So I have a question for, I guess, all of you, but Bob in particular. I have a unique situation. I got tens of thousands of pictures that haven't been digitized in a storage bin in Hoosick, New York, that I will not reach for 2 or 3 weeks. So getting them up to the free Google should be part of a problem. So I have a couple, the free one, all right, and get them in there so I don't have to pay for them. So the question for Bob is, you mentioned that Google phone, I don't know whether Pixel or whatever, you don't have a storage limit. So the question is, what is the oldest, because I probably buy a used Google phone anyway, what is the oldest Google phone I can get that will allow me to get pictures up for free, and not free, but I can give them up for free, store them without having to count them. And if I assume that happens after the 1st of June, so how do I make this work with the old phone and the pictures I got in the storage bin?
Pixel 2 up, and the picture has to be taken with that phone in order to not count against your storage.
Oh, it can't be just in the phone, right? As a
You know, you can take a picture. You can take a picture with your Pixel
Take
phone.
a picture of a picture as long as
Yeah.
you're taking it with a Pixel
Yeah.
2 and up.
Pixel 2?
Yeah,
Pixel 2 and up.
And is that going to keep going forever, or is that just a limited period of time they're going to do
Hey,
that? What do
they
you know?
said photos are going to be free forever. All right, so you
Yeah.
take it from there.
Yeah, just like Google Photos is free forever.
Correct.
So it
That's
it
the only
looks
answer
like
I can. That's the only answer I can give you.
Well, basically, I got to get a Pixel phone and use that to take the pictures of all that stuff in that storage bin, right?
That's correct. Otherwise, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be part of the no count.
Well, anybody got a Pixel phone, 2
I
phone
do.
or up?
Chris, I'll sell you mine in October.
Sold.
Yeah, you
But I
got
need
it. You got it.
But the problem with that is I need it now, because by October I'll be back out here, back in Mesa rather.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Dick Vogel
Detlef?
has his.
Well,
Okay.
or who do we go here? Who was first? Let's do Detlef. He's calling all the way from Germany.
Okay, you were talking about what happens to these old pictures. Let me show you something I just got from my sister. That's my
Ah.
father in 1914,
Ah.
wearing the uniform for the First World War.
Ah. Now that was digitally. She put it on digitally.
No, she made a picture. She took a picture of a photo
Oh,
and
okay.
sent me that. So it's still around after over
Yep.
100 years.
Yeah.
You wonder what's going to happen with the stuff that's on the thumb drive,
Yeah. Exactly.
you know? But
Yeah.
at least this is still there.
Yeah.
So all depends too on whether or not you have an interest in something that old.
Mm-hmm.
I have a small picture of my grandfather, but it's so faded that I could barely still make out the outline. So, but I also
Yeah.
have it digitized, and it's not going to disappear that way.
This thing here is my great grandfather. Let me see if I can get it in there. No, there,
Nah, not really.
not really.
No.
But that thing's got to be like 1880s.
Yep.
You know, you look at
Oh.
them and you thought, God, they had film back then.
8.
One variety of film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One
Dick-
thing that people don't talk about when they start thinking about saving all these old pictures, and I have had hundreds of them, and most of them are in slides, is anybody going to be interested in the future? And so we've had some of those discussions with our children and grandchildren, and if they're not going to be interested, I'm not going to bother to save them.
Yeah,
Well,
if they want them, that's their business. If they
Yeah.
don't, there's nothing you can do about it. So,
By the way, if they're old enough in black and white, there's a market for old photos and negatives
Ah.
from the black and white variety.
Yeah.
Oh,
The History Museum in Denver has really old photographs and slides like that too. They're interested in those kinds of things. So
my
even if your family
grandfather
wouldn't be
donated his
interested.
photographs to the Royal British Columbia Museum archives. and they were very appreciated. He had lots of glass negatives. And it was the early days of Caslow. Caslow on Kootenai Lake was founded in 1893, and there are pictures of people curling like my great aunts in their long skirts, pre-World War One. And see, my grandfather was born in 1888, and he moved to Caslow when he was 5 in 1893. And the archives, the provincial archives, were appreciative of receiving those photographs. So if people have old photographs, your local archives or state or provincial archives might be interested in them.
Good to
Yes,
know.
possibility. But I think
Yeah,
Dick's point is well taken, is that if if your family isn't interested in them, and who knows if they will be, where are they going to go? But the other question will really be, what will happen? There's got to be some reconcile sometime of all this data that's being stored. Someone's going to come along and say, hey, no one's looked at these pictures for 30 years. And the guy died like 50 years ago. Are we going to keep these pictures, right? So I don't know how that's all going to work out. That's going to be an interesting, but fortunately, I don't have to worry about that, right?
Roberta, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I've been putting my pictures on Family Search, which is free, or you can
Yeah,
use Ancestry.
Yeah.
And I put them on for that relative that is in that photo.
Right.
And I have had other relatives do the same thing, because I never saw my grandmother. She died 5 years before I was born. And other relatives had put photos on of my grandmother. And I was really glad to be able to see a picture of my blood relative.
Yeah, I've been having fun in a lot of the Facebook pages for I grew up in. I'm a part of several different cities because I lived at periods of time in my life in certain cities. And one of them, the one I lived in from 57 to about 1965, somebody posted them during a snowstorm playing as little kids out in the yard. And it was in my neighborhood. And so I got to see a lot of the houses that were in my neighborhood and so on, even though, it wasn't about my family. Seeing those old photographs was actually old films was a lot of fun. So there is some benefit to it for other people, not just your relatives. And like Don and Roberta said, and so on, they're saving them. There's other people who are interested in the old photos.
Well, we have 1 minute left before the meeting starts. So
Actually, I'm going to comment quick if I can, Ron.
go ahead.
Somebody was talking about the type of pictures that were taken before film was really invented. Well, it's impossible to see this, but they're called tintype. And they actually were photographs that were taken with a camera, but then superimposed on tin. And today, this is from I think the 1890s, the one I have. And I have no idea who's in it, but looking at it now, I can't see it. So what I did was I scanned it and then loaded it into one of my photograph apps and changed the resolution, and you can see it reasonably clear now.
All right, it's 9 o'clock. Bob, should we get going?
Let her rip.
Let her rip.
Let her rip.
I'm gonna mute all. Yes, and then we will share the screen. And we will share the sound. Tech for Senior. Yes, episode 62, May the 31st, 2021. Welcome, everyone. We have 86 people with us today and a bunch over on our live stream. So thank you for coming today. As I've said many times in the past, it's your enthusiasm that keeps us going. And so thank you so much for coming. As you are aware, there are two groups today. We have, of course, our group in our Zoom meeting today. The Zoom meeting will go along for about an hour, and then we have a question and answer period. For those of you who are on YouTube live, because we're streaming over to YouTube, then of course the meeting will finish in about 50 minutes just prior to our music segment. But of course, the meetings are all taped and you can watch all 62 episodes in all those episodes. So it makes great reruns for you. That's just great. So welcome everybody. I want to thank you again for coming. Now, just remind everybody about Tech for Senior Live this Thursday. We will again be on this Thursday and have a great show for you. Last week, Heather Crafter was on. We had a lot of fun with that. For those of you who are not watching us on Facebook, you are missing out on some crazy good stuff. We have all the latest news articles. In fact, there's a news article which just came out this morning. I'm going to talk about it today, and it's on our Facebook page. So it is all the latest stuff that Bob, Hewie, and I put on there, and we talk about it on Thursday morning. One thing that we're going to do now is you too can come on as a guest on Tech for Senior Live. If you want to talk, if you like to gab, if you've got a gift of the gab and you want to talk about technology, Hewie, Bob, and I sit down and we just talk about the articles that are on our page and what has happened this week in technology. If you want to come on and sit down and have a cup of coffee with us and just talk tech for the hour, you too could be a guest on Tech for Senior Live. That, of course, is Thursday morning at 9 o'clock. I want to thank everybody. It was really heartwarming to see for the donations that came in. We're about 91% of our $800 budget. You have been so generous in your donation. It's really hard. I mean, it really, I just get speechless sometimes when I think about it. And I guess it just means that we're doing a good job. We're working hard. This is all volunteer work, and the money that is donated goes back to improving the product. Hewie has some thank yous to do today, and I'll get to that in a minute. But just to let you know, thank you so much. You've basically given us enough to keep going, so that is great. We will keep the Ko-fi fund up for the year, and any extra money that comes in, of course, we put back into the services of making our product better, because of course nobody gets paid. This is an all volunteer organization. Hewie, let me introduce everyone today. Hewie, how the heck are you doing today?
I am doing great. I got a poppy field behind me because to signify Memorial Day.
Very good.
And happy Memorial Day, or I don't know whether you call it happy, but I hope everyone has a good Memorial Day today and attend some kind of a service, or either online or in person. And I'm surprised we have as many people as we do have today because of the holiday.
Yes. Did you have some? Do you want to do the thank yous now?
Sure, I'll be glad to. You sent me the list of the additional names. I read a bunch of names over the last couple of weeks. In addition to those, I do want to also signify that some people just donated their cup of coffee anonymously, and we thank them as well. But also Geeks on Tour, Murray Strom, Marcia Berkey, Dwight J.J. Johnson, Mike Smith, UA Sexton, Elizabeth Bradley, Irving, thank you, and Mead Stewart. Thank you all for contributing and buying us a cup of coffee.
Yes, and for sure, for those of you who may have not just put your name in, you may have just, if you didn't put your name in initially when you logged on to the Ko-fi site, then it wouldn't know who you are. So we know where your email address is, but we don't know who you are. So if we didn't mention your name, please, our apologies. We do thank you very, very much. And the next is Bob. Bob, where the heck are you? We missed you at Tech for Senior Live last week. Are you back for a while now, or what's going on?
I am back for a while, yes. I can't
Mhm.
be in two places, and I had a presentation scheduled at the same time as our talk. I still had a cup of coffee though, just with some different folks.
Hey, and Bob talked me into buying a new keyboard, and that keyboard has worked great. And I think it's the increased travel on the keys because I don't make as many mistakes now. Just a few, but not many.
The light also helps.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And of course, Ray, what's happening there in? Oh, I got to tell you. Okay, you tell me what's happening in Arizona, and then I'll tell you what's really happening in Arizona.
Okay.
All right.
Saturday, I spent time at our local library talking about volunteers. They have a huge book sale on Memorial Day weekend, as well as some of the other big weekends in the summer when we get a lot of people from the Phoenix area coming up here for the day. So I was happy to volunteer my time. And then this morning, Ron, I was thinking I've been working full time since age 17. And today is the first Memorial Day I ever had to work.
Yes, but you enjoy it. But you enjoy it.
I enjoy
right?
it. Yes. Yes.
We have a special election here in New Mexico, and where I live in that district, and I will be busy tomorrow from 6 a.m. until about 8 o'clock.
Right.
It'll be a big day tomorrow.
Yes. Well, just before I get to Dewey in a minute, but Ray, the big news in Arizona, you don't know what the big news is?
Surprised me.
Well, Starlink is now available for everybody in Arizona. It was announced this morning. It's now available. Anybody in Arizona can apply and get Starlink, and that's just came out on the news service this morning.
Well, I had told you about 3 or 4 weeks ago, a friend of mine named Bob actually was on the list, and he had it installed. And I haven't talked to him in about 2 weeks, but his first impressions were very good.
Yeah.
That
Well,
surprised me because I thought it was only going to be the northern part of the country.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
And here we are in Arizona.
Yeah. So all of Arizona can apply now, and it's not beta or anything. It's all boom. It's regular, and you can apply for the service. And Dewey,
Greetings. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Are you still on that tractor behind you?
I was on it Saturday and mowed my lawn. That was me then.
All right. Well, good. You're doing okay.
I'm doing great.
We look forward to your segment today because
Great, Dewey.
it's so applicable today. So thanks so much for doing that. That's great.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Well, just before we finish off here, I want to tell you 1 year ago, June the 1st, it was episode, I think it was it, oh, darn it. I think it was episode 10. Hewie and I talked about, video chapters, and also the second part of organizing your smartphone. Hewie talked about Feedly. Remember that? You should do that again, Hewie. That was a good talk, and certainly apropos regarding newsreaders, but you talked about Feedly and showed us how to do Chrome browser shortcuts. So that was pretty good. And Bob talked about the benefits of getting old. Bob, can you do that talk again sometime?
Sure, it's still available. And I'm not getting younger.
Maybe we need a refresher course on that, eh?
Neither are any of us.
Are you about ready to do your segment?
Yep.
Okay, take her away.
Here is the Avast Security News Roundup for the week ending May 28th, 2021. Update your Mac to prevent sneaky screenshots. Apple released Big Sur 11.4 this week in order to patch a zero-day flaw that allowed users to take screenshots, record video, and access files on someone else's Mac without being detected. The exploit provided a way to bypass Apple's transparency consent and control framework, which oversees the permission granted to each app. The flaw was discovered by cybersecurity firm JMF when, according to its blog, it observed excess spyware using this bypass specifically for the purpose of taking screenshots of the user's desktop without requiring additional permission. The malware was able to evade the TCC by essentially hijacking permissions granted to other apps. Avast security evangelist Louis Carones recommends not waiting to update your Mac. All users are urged to update to the latest version of Big Sur, he said. Mac users are accustomed to receiving prompts when an app needs certain permission to perform its duties, but attackers are bypassing that protection completely by actively exploiting this vulnerability. Missing register access controls leak ELO state. Miracles is a covert channel vulnerability in the Apple Silicon M1 chip. And here is a summary of the bad news. A flaw in the design of the Apple Silicon M1 chip allows any two applications running under an OS to covertly exchange data between them without using memory, sockets, files, or any other normal operating system features. This works because processes running as different users and under different privilege levels, creating a covert channel for surreptitious data exchange. The vulnerability is baked into Apple Silicon chips and cannot be fixed without a new Silicon revision. Read the full details at https://miracles.com. Miracles in this case is spelled with a number 1, not an I. Falsely registered Walmart accounts receive racist emails. A hacker signed up an unknown number of users for Walmart accounts and then sent them a welcome to Walmart email that contained a racial slur. Walmart spokesperson Molly Blakeman issued a statement saying that the bad actor came from outside the company and had obvious intent to offend our customers. She also commented, "We are shocked and appalled to see these offensive and unacceptable emails. We're looking into our sign-up process to ensure something like this doesn't happen again." Learn more at CNN Business. NHS ready to share 55 million patient records with third parties. Unless they opt out before June 23rd, 55 million patients in England will have their medical histories added to a national data pool the NHS plans to share with third parties. According to Financial Times, NHS Digital, which runs the health services IT systems, confirmed the plan to pool together medical records for every patient in England who is registered with a GP clinic into a single lake that will be available to academic and commercial third parties for research and planning purposes. Opponents of the plan say the NHS has not readily informed the general public and that many still don't know the plan is being enacted. WhatsApp sues Indian government over new internet laws. Encrypted communications platform WhatsApp filed a lawsuit in Delhi courts this week, suing the Indian government over new laws that require all internet-based communications to be traceable. WhatsApp has more than 400 million users in India, and all their data would have to be recorded and collected for government storage under the new edict. In its lawsuit, WhatsApp called the law unconstitutional and a violation of every citizen's right to the preservation of privacy, as mentioned in an Indian Supreme Court ruling in 2017. Check out The Guardian for more on this story. Bose notifies employees about a ransomware attack. 6 days after it was detected, audio tech giant Bose notified affected employees that their HR data had been involved in a ransomware attack. We did not make any ransomware payment. We recovered and secured our systems with the support of third-party cybersecurity experts. Bose Media Relations Director Joanne Berthiaume told Bleeping Computers. During our investigation, we identified a very small number of individuals whose data was impacted, and we sent notices to them directly in accordance with our legal requirements, she added. Personal information exposed in the attack includes names, social security numbers, and salary information, as well as other HR data. And that wraps up this week's Avast Security News Roundup. Stay safe, stay secure. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Well, thanks, Bob. That's great. All right, we're going to move on now, and we will, I'm going to share and we'll go into Dewey's segment.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dewey, and my Tech Talk topic for today is, how do you say the name capital L-O, capital R-A? I totally admit that I don't own a smart speaker or a smart video doorbell. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe it's the time it would take to get these things set up and working. Maybe it's the money, or probably just plain lack of interest. However, last week I read an article that piqued my interest in them, titled, Amazon is turning Echo and Ring into transmitters on June 8th. I thought it might be of interest to many of our TFSers. The article appeared in the Ask Woody newsletter and was written by Brian Livingston, who has more than 30 years experience as a technology writer. From 2003 to 2010, Brian was editorial director of the Windows Secrets newsletter, a weekly email publication with helpful information about using Microsoft Windows. I was a longtime subscriber, as was our co-host Ron Brown. Writer Livingston said that many users may not be expecting it, but those nice little Echo speakers you bought to play music or whatever, as well as your Ring cams, Level brand door locks, and so forth, will begin talking to a gaggle of gadgets that may be up to several miles from your home. It's also happening on different dates in many other countries around the world, but June 8th has been set as the start date in the US. I was unable to confirm the start date in Canada. This data channel is always on and won't use your Wi-Fi. Rather, certain of these devices will be using a new type of capability that Amazon and others have embedded into them in the last 3 years. I'll explain further. Buried within these products are both Bluetooth transceivers and a different type of longer range, lower power transmission signal called, and here's the pronunciation, LoRa. It's for long range, and it uses the license-free 915 megahertz frequency in the US, different frequencies in other countries. Bluetooth, of course, is limited to a range of roughly 30 feet. LoRa is a proprietary low-power wide area modulation technique based on spread spectrum modulation. Semtech.com, a multinational corporation located in California, is the developer of LoRa. Once enabled, both Bluetooth and LoRa can exchange data with other devices. For instance, if you have a little Bluetooth transceiver connected tile tracker on your key ring, you can make lost keys play a ringtone or show up on a map with your smartphone. By the way, when you first purchased your smart devices, you likely clicked OK to some legalisms, boilerplate, that opened you up to this arrangement, which facilitates what Amazon calls its sidewalk service. Now, sidewalk service sounds like a church with serious social distancing, says Livingston, but the program is actually a kind of a mesh network of LoRa chipsets that Amazon has embedded in many of its devices over the last 3 years. These chipsets are the secret sauce, allowing devices up to several miles apart to communicate with each other. If pinpointing your keys were limited solely to Bluetooth signals, you and your key ring would only need to be within typical Bluetooth range, but LoRa can be different. Of course, the wider area sidewalk service will work the best when a lot of people are running Amazon devices. Sidewalk capable products using LoRa include the Ring Spotlight Cam wired, Ring Spotlight Cam mount, Ring Floodlight Cam, and other gizmos that are usually placed outside a home or office. Inside a building, LoRa transceivers are built into a lot of Echo devices. You can read them: Echo Dot, Echo Flex, Echo Input, Echo Plus, Echo Show, Echo Spot, Echo Studio, and even some other devices. Writer Livingston says third-party vendors are hopping onto the Amazon sidewalk and promising us every kind of cool trick this side of personal jetpacks. For example, Careband Incorporated, a company in Chicago that sells wearables, has funding from the National Institute on Aging and plans wristbands to help caregivers find wandering patients via sidewalk signals. That's unusual. The uses of LoRa transceivers are limited only by the imagination, but individuals are not likely to be the biggest users of this low power service. Instead, think of all those trucks that Amazon uses to provide speedy deliveries, even 4-hour same-day delivery in major cities. Millions of places in the US alone already have Echo, Ring, and other devices with LoRa chipsets. Wouldn't it be convenient for Amazon taskmasters, the guys that run the show, to communicate short messages to their drivers through your smart doorbell? Interesting, huh? The company's logistics arm could use it to track high-value deliveries using small tile-type trackers, for instance, says Christopher Mims, a writer for the Wall Street Journal. Amazon's messaging won't seriously dent anyone's Wi-Fi speeds. The default bandwidth choice will be LoRa, which is primarily intended for small bursts of data. In theory, the spec offers at most only 27 kilobits per second. That's nothing. That's less data than the old 56K modems could push through a landline in the 1990s. Every app is different, but here are some general rules of thumb. If you have an Echo device, use your Alexa app to open the settings window. You can change your Amazon Sidewalk preferences there. If you have a Ring device, go to the control center in the Ring app and change the Amazon Sidewalk preference there. If you've linked your Ring and Amazon accounts, changing your Sidewalk preferences, using either Alexa or your Ring app will affect all of your compatible Echo and Ring devices. You probably figured that out. Mr. Livingston concludes the article by saying, I'm not planning to use the LoRa frequency for anything just yet, but as soon as it'll power a jetpack, sign me up. Well, LoRa is a very interesting data transmission standard, but also extraordinarily complex. In addition, it's a concept that fits in with other transmission standards that we know of, like 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G. I'm thinking now that I might just see if I can find an easy to understand way of telling you more about it in a future Tech Talk. Well, that's my Tech Talk story for today, and I'm sticking with it. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and have a great day.
Well, thank you very much. That was very appropriate.
Ron,
Yes?
back in December, I did a talk on Sidewalk, and I have a
You did.
video. I put the link to that video in the chat.
Great. Thanks, Bob. Now, Hewie, are you around? Where the heck are you? Are you ready to go?
I certainly am. How to convert PDF files to either a Word document or to a JPEG graphics file. I'm Hewie Poplock. Let's start with the PDF file. This is a 33-page document as a PDF. I consolidated it to a 5-page document, including the cover page, to make it a lot quicker to demonstrate what we want to do today. So right now we have this PDF file. Let's take a look at it. There's several graphics. There's a little chart in there. There's a spreadsheet. There are a few graphics in this document. So let's see how we can convert this file. To convert it to a Word document, we don't start with the PDF file. We're actually going to start with Word. And then we're going to tell it that we want to open a file. And we're going to go find that document by browsing. We go to the folder. Now we're opening it up in Word, but we're going to the PDF file. We click on it and we tell it to open. What we'll get is this dialog box, which says Word will now convert your PDF to an editable Word document. This may take a while. The resulting Word document will be optimized to allow you to edit the text, so it might not look exactly like the original PDF, especially if the original file contained lots of graphics. So let's go ahead and click OK. And we are now in Word, and it has converted it. This is a Word document. We can see, if we click here, we see the graphic. If we come down here, this is all editable. Here's another graphic. Here's a spreadsheet with columns and rows. Here's another graphic. So we've got our document now in Word. Now, what can we do with it? Well, let's take a look. We can take some of the graphics out of it if we want and use them for other purposes. So let's come down and let's say we want to use this graphic. We click on it. It puts a box around it and shows us how it's set in the document. But if we right mouse click on this, we can save as a picture. We can insert text. There are several things that we can do. And right now we can wrap the text in different ways. We can size and position it. Let's go ahead and just look at the size and position. It actually shows us some information about that and tells us that we've got it right now at over the original size of the picture. So what we're going to do is we're going to just take this and we're going to save it as a picture, and we're going to put it in the same folder, and we're going to call it network cable. Blue, and save it. Now if we go out to our folder, it's in there. If we click it and we open it, we're opening it in Fan view. There is that graphic. So we can take each of the graphics and make them separate files from our document. Now we've got something here, which is a table. We copy that, and I am just going to copy it. And just to as an example, let's now open up Excel. And go to a blank document and paste it. And we can adjust it. So you could do some formatting and fix it up a little bit. So you can use that table. We're not going to save that. So you could use this table in different ways. Now, we have it in Word, so we can edit anything in here, or we can add our own words. We can say, this is our example. Let's make sure the text is in this. This is Arial 12, and we have it in Arial 12. So it's actually in the same font as our original document. So whatever we do with this, it's going to look like it was here to begin with. Now, if we want to save this back out as a PDF again, let's go ahead and let's delete this. It's not even in there now. And we can now do a file and save as, and we can save it in all of these different formats. We can save it back as a PDF, and this time we're going to call it fixed document, and save it. And we're going to go ahead and close our document now. You want to save the changes to the original. We're going to not save those. And now what we're going to do is we're going to bring the folder back over here. And here's the fixed document. When we open it, it is a PDF, and it no longer has that one graphic that we deleted. We could actually delete all of the graphics if we wanted to and change it in any way we want. We readjust the paragraphs however we want to do it. So that's how you can first convert and then edit a PDF to a Word document. Next, we want to take that same PDF file. We want to make each page a JPEG. You might ask, why would you want to do that? Well, let's say you want to post one of the pages or a couple of the pages on Facebook or on a website or in a flyer or in a newsletter, and it's easier to just take a picture of the page and put the picture in that newsletter, on that flyer, or in the case of Facebook, you can't post a PDF. You would have to post it as a picture or as a graphic. So let's do that. We're going to open up that file. I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to open it with the Acrobat Reader DC. That would be probably the version of Acrobat that you have on your computer. And you'll see that over here on the right are some things that we can do. So here is the document. And what we want to do is we want to export that PDF as convert it to a JPEG. Now we're going to have a problem, but let's do this anyway. When I click on convert, it goes to this page. Hey, it wants us to subscribe at $15 a month to the Acrobat Pro DC, which will allow us to do that. Well, you know what? I'm not going to spend $15 a month. I'm certainly not going to do that just to convert a few pages every once in a while. So there are some ways around that. So how are we going to convert our PDF to JPEGs for free and simply? Well, there's several ways you can do it. Obviously, you can do screen captures. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Microsoft Store, and we're going to do a search. And we're going to search for PDF to JPEG. And it shows several here, or we can just do the search. And it finds several programs. But here's one as a PDF to JPEG. I went ahead and clicked on it and installed it. And then when it's installed, it's ready to launch. Or I can just go to the program that's now part of my Windows. To launch it, we have to go to our menu. Now, I hadn't mentioned earlier, but the name of that PDF to JPEG was any PDF to JPEG. So we'll find it on our menu right here under any PDF to JPEG. And you can see that it shows that it's new. I'm going to right mouse click and I'm going to pin that to the start so that we have it on our start, and I'm going to put it up here so I can find it easily the next time. So let's go ahead and click on it. What it's saying is, okay, load the PDF. So that's the first thing that we need to do, is go ahead and click on that. And this is the document that we want, and we tell it to open. And we're going to tell it to save the image. So let's go ahead and click it. So where is it going to put it? We're going to put it in the same place. It's going to be a subfolder. It's going to create its own folder. We're going to do all of the pages. We could say just do the current page, or just do pages from 1 to 3 or 2 to 4 or whatever. We're going to do all of the pages just so you can see it's done. We can save it in several formats. We can save it as a JPEG, a PNG, a BMP, a GIF, or a TIFF, but we're going to save it as a JPEG. You can scale it so you can make it bigger or smaller. We're going to leave it at 100%, and we're going to tell it to continue. It's done. It's that quick. And now we're going to open up the folder. And there's our 5 files. So if we open up first one, This is showing it at 81%. It's not the full size, but it is the full page. And we can go to each page, and each one of these is a JPEG, which we could then copy and paste to do whatever. Let's go the other way. Let's say we have a Word file or an Excel file, and we want to make a PDF out of it. That's very simple these days. Several years ago, you had to own the Adobe Acrobat Professional program in order to save a file as an Acrobat PDF file. But let's take a look at it now. We're going to open up a sample Word document. To save this as a PDF file, it's quite simple. There are a few ways in which you could do it though. First way, and the quickest and easiest way, is go to File, do a Save As. We're going to save it in the same folder, but notice this drop down. What we're going to do is we're going to save it as a PDF. We're going to leave the same name, and we will then save it. And when we look at our folder now, we will see that there is a Word document called example.docs. If you want to open it with the Reader, Adobe Reader, it's going to look the same way. It's going to look like this. You might not have this open on this side, and you can close this up. If you wanted to close that, you just click here, and it gives you your tools over on the side. And there's our PDF. This is at 176%. Actual zoom to page level, and we see the entire page. So we've created a PDF from. But there is also another way in which you could do a PDF. There is another way in which we can do that. We're going to open up the Word document again. This time, instead of saving it, we're going to tell it to print. And you can change your printers, and depending upon what software you have installed and so on, you will find that there may be some different PDF formats, but one of them is Microsoft Print to PDF. When you do that, you're going to print it to a PDF. You click print. It says, okay, what do you want to call it? And we're going to call this Microsoft PDF version. I hit the caps, but that's all right. I hit the caps lock, but that's all right. We'll just leave it that way. Microsoft PDF version sample, and we'll say save. And now when we go back into the folder, we'll see the MS. So when we click on it, it's still a PDF. So there are different ways in which you can save a file as a PDF. And so any file, it doesn't, if it's not in Word, let's say it's in any program that you use, and it doesn't have the ability to save that file as a PDF, print to PDF, and choose one of the choices that's on your computer, and make sure that after you finish it, the next time you go to print to your printer, change the printer back to your HP or your brother printer, and don't leave it on the PDF, where each time it's going to try to do that. Save it as a file, and you're not going to, it's going to confuse you and why it's not printing. This is Hewie Poplock. Thanks for joining.
Hey, great video. I love the intro and the extra there is really cool too. I love the music. All right, let's move on. I'm going to share the screen and we will get on. Now, this is a video about watches. I told you last week I was going to do one because we had a lot of watch questions and lots of things are happening now. So here we go. It's Ron Brown with Tech for Seniors. Smart watches, a medical perspective. You know, as a physician with 35 years of experience, I'd like to give you my perspective on the life-saving features of your smartwatch. Now, you know the routine. If you like this video, please click the like. And if you want to see more of these, please subscribe. It really helps the channel. Let's get on with the show. You have two watches on the screen. The one on the left is worth $30. The one on the right, $300. Which one should you buy? My recommendations are on medical facts, not consumerism. Claims of health benefits are driven by companies selling the products. This is why you get a very odd response when you bring your ECG done by your watch in to see your physician. This is about to change, however. Here are the 3 takeaway messages I want you to get from this video. Why purchase a smartwatch? Which one should you buy? And what features should you look for? Let's look at the medical facts. In this picture, you'll see on the left, cataracts. As we get older, we can't see as well. So our eye lenses wear out and often require surgery to correct this. On the right-hand side, you'll see arthritis. We have arthritis in our knees and our hips. Again, we need surgery to correct this and we get new joints. Our heart also ages and can have problems, particularly with the electrical system. Your heart can start to slow down or it can speed up. If it slows down too much, you can have problems with consciousness. This can often lead to a disastrous result, causing loss of consciousness and an accident. Now, in the diagram here, you'll see a terrible car accident. No, actually, it's not. This was just some high school students staging a scene for impaired driving. But certainly, as a senior, we could be in a position where we're driving, our heart rate gets too slow, and we could lose consciousness. Oftentimes, you need a cardiac pacemaker. So let's look at the incidence of this. If we look at the graph here on the right-hand side, you'll see that if you are 60 years old, there is actually an exponential curve going up showing the incidence of pacemaker insertion. This is a very common problem. And if you reach the age of 80, there's a very good chance that you may require a pacemaker. Let's look at what happens when your heart rate speeds up too fast. This could be atrial fibrillation. Atrial fibrillation is the 5th cause of stroke. Again, let's look at the incidence. If you are 60 years old, let's look at the graph. It goes up exponentially. The same graph as with the slow heartbeat, it can go too fast as well. It's part of the aging process, and we need to be on top of this because we can either be in a fatal car accident or we can have a lifelong stroke to deal with. So let's look at how smartwatches can help us with this. All right, there are 3 watches that stand out above all the others because they have an advanced cardiac feature. They have the ability to do an ECG. So what does this mean and why is it important? The watches are the Apple Watch Series 4 to 6, the Samsung Galaxy Watch 3, and the Fitbit Sense. So what makes these watches unique is that they can actually diagnose a cardiac complication called atrial fibrillation. Now, you're not constantly monitored. It's not constantly measuring your heart. But if you feel a bit weird, you get some palpitations, you feel a bit dizzy, then you can touch your watch in a certain way, and it does what we call an ECG. But the most important thing about this is it actually interprets the ECG and tells you if you have atrial fibrillation. This feature is FDA approved and has been validated to be an excellent service. So it gives you an interpreted electrocardiogram. Only these 3 watches. Let me show you my ECG. Here is my ECG that I did just yesterday. And in this, it shows, of course, who I am. It shows my age. My heartbeat was 81 beats per minute. And it tells me that I had what we call a normal sinus rhythm. So it means, what really that means is I don't have atrial fibrillation. And that's really all these watches do. Tell you if you do have atrial fibrillation or you don't. To review that again, they're the 3 watches that have the advanced cardiac diagnostic feature, and that's the Apple Watch, the Samsung Galaxy Watch 3, and the Fitbit Sense. Now let's look at all the other watches that are out there, the smartwatches, the $30 smartwatch versus the $300, all right? They will all do your pulse, and they will all tell you if your pulse is too slow, or if your pulse is too fast, and all the watches monitor your pulse on an ongoing basis. So it's a 24/7 sort of thing. So if your heart is too slow, your watch is going to tell you, hey, your pulse is a little slow here, and maybe you need to see your doctor because it may mean a pacemaker. Let's say your pulse is too fast. Maybe you've got some palpitations. Suddenly your heart kicks in. It's going too fast. Well, you don't have the advanced cardiac features on there, but it's giving you a warning, and then you can get into your doctor and they can do a proper electrocardiogram and make the diagnosis. So remember, let's monitor your pulse. Monitor your pulse. So important. Too slow or too fast. The Samsung Watch 3 is FDA approved to measure your blood pressure digitally. It does it accurately and is being certified. You're going to be seeing this feature come out on a lot of watches this fall. Do I think it's worth spending $300 to specifically buy a watch to measure your blood pressure? I don't. I think it's a great feature to promote interest in your blood pressure, and if it stimulates conversation with your physician and you become more interested in your blood pressure, that is a good thing. But measuring it with a $50 unit that you put around your arm is fine, and see no advantage in having a watch. Do this, or do I think that you should spend the extra money? Oxygen saturation. This is not FDA approved. The results are terrible, highly variable, and you should be extremely wary when using this feature on a watch. Emergency notification, very important. It is available, of course, on the Samsung Galaxy Watch 3 and, of course, the Apple Watch. It is not available on the Fitbit Sense. I think this is a good service. However, you must remember you have to have the watch on for this to work. We'll talk about that next. Fall detection. Fall detection is available on the Apple Watch and Samsung Watch as well. You must remember, though, in order for fall detection to work, the watch has to be on your wrist. So the problem with a watch is twofold. First, it has to be taken off to be charged. And then, of course, you have to put it back on, and you have to wear it through the night. So if you're not going to wear the watch through the night, or you can't remember to put it back on, you should look for another solution to fall detection. And then there are a lot of other features of smartwatches. I'm not going to cover those in this video. This video is primarily for the medical features of smartwatches. In January of 2020, this research group from the Samsung Advanced Institute of Technology and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology made a discovery. They were able to measure your blood sugar without bodily fluids. They did this through a type of laser technology. What this meant was we would now be able to measure your blood sugar without actually having body fluids. It was only 1 year till the people involved in making watches were able to combine this technology into watches. This is truly the holy grail, because with 30 million Americans having diabetes, the savings of this technology over the next 3 years could be $90 billion. So what's coming? Well, there is big money to be made here. The Apple Watch 7 will be released mid-September. The release date is already indicated, and this will indeed have blood pressure monitoring and blood sugar monitoring. Then let's look at Samsung Galaxy Watch 4, which is also rumored to have blood sugar monitoring. Not sure yet about this Fitbit Sense, but this clearly is a huge development, and whoever gets it right is going to run away with the Holy Grail. But let's see what happened this week. Well, I had all my slides ready to go. I had my presentations ready, and we were all ready for the new watches to come out. But what happened last week tore the whole thing apart. Two huge announcements were made. The first was Samsung Galaxy watches would be discontinuing their Tizen operating system. All these Samsung watches, which were the closest to the Apple Watch, ran on the proprietary Samsung software called Tizen, Tizen. They announced this week they would be discontinuing that software, and they would be using the Google Wear operating system. Ooh, what's going on here? And the second thing that blew me away was, of course, Google. Google, of course, purchased Fitbit. We all have Fitbits. We know the Fitbit operating system, but it is proprietary. Well, they're now discontinuing that on all their Fitbit line, and they're going to Google Wear as well. So what does this mean about watches from Google and Samsung? Lots of rumors going on right now. I've heard that Samsung Watch 4 will not be coming out. Then another rumor is they have already produced warehouses full of these watches. No idea. It's constantly changing. Okay, so where do we go with this? And will Apple run off with the Holy Grail? I would like all seniors to be more vigilant in monitoring their pulse for it being too slow or being too fast. Most watches will do this, and you don't have to spend a lot of money on the advanced cardiac monitoring features. This device made by AliveCar is called CardioMobile and is licensed by the FDA to do what the watches do. It does an ECG that is interpreted for the presence of atrial fibrillation. Unlike the watch apps, it can be used by multiple people. It connects to any smartphone and stores the ECG on your smartphone, where it can be sent to your healthcare provider. This is the software that Apple used to develop the ECG on its watch and has been around for many years. There are two versions, one for $90 and the other for $150, but they both do the same thing. But the $150 one is a 6-lead ECG. This can provide your physician with more medical information and is the preferred choice if your physician shows some interest. These devices are available on Best Buy or Amazon and often found on sale. Well, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel to keep updated on this ever-changing watch story. It's Ron Brown with Tech for Seniors. Have a great day. All right. There may be in Hewie's segment in mind, or any questions we'll be taking it will be in the question and answer period. Ray, are you getting ready?
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to say
Okay.
goodbye. Let me just say goodbye to the people on our streaming service. For those of you who are over on YouTube, we'll be saying goodbye now. And again, you can see this. This will be the whole show will be taped and available on our website. Ray, go ahead.